So do not be afraid of them. There's nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before men, I will disown him before my Father in heaven.
Morning. Morning. All right, you guys are getting trained up. This is good. Later there might be a chance to say amen. What are you going to say? Amen. Oh, yeah. Irrational, paralyzing fear and anxiety. Irrational, paralyzing fear and anxiety. We've all got it. We've all experienced it. Now, you probably experienced it in different areas than I experienced it. But there's some place in your life, some situation that you find yourself in, where you experience irrational, paralyzing fear and anxiety. Probably about half of you, if I brought you up on stage and left the stage and gave you the microphone and said, all right, let's go, say something. You would experience irrational, paralyzing fear and anxiety. It would be kind of ridiculous because everyone in the room knows how to talk. But man, I'm up in front of a medium-sized group of people. Absolutely scared. All right, so over the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to coach a little league. The Ipsy Arbor American League Majors Division Orioles. The absolute fear and terror of all the other kids in that elaborate division. And it's been so much fun to do, but one of the things that's been really interesting about it is just seeing what a huge role anxiety plays in the lives of these little 11 and 12 year olds. So, some of you guys love baseball. I was talking about baseball again, praise God, I get confused when he talks about other things with baseball I get. Others are like, please, never get a baseball illustration. I will leave the church. But just join with me, even if you know nothing about baseball. Some pretty simple concepts. You got a pitcher, he's throwing the ball over the plate. You got a hitter, he's trying to protect the plate. He's trying to take that ball and put it into the left field. Okay, so you got this 11-year-old boy, we'll call him Johnny, and he's coming up to the plate, and he is absolutely immobilized, paralyzed with irrational fear and anxiety. And I call it irrational because this kid can hit. You take him to practice, you put him in a pitching machine, 7 out of 10, he'll drive him into the outfield. You get him in the park with dad, throwing him. Most dads can probably throw as hard as an 11-year-old, and he can hit dad. You put him in practice with the other kids, he can hit off the other kids. The kid can hit, but you put him in a game, and he's paralyzed, he's immobilized, he is absolutely scared to death. We don't know why he's scared to death. Maybe he's afraid he's going to get hit by a pitch. That 40-mile-per-hour fastball that's coming in there, and it's going to sting. I mean, it's going to sting almost as long as he's talking about. No, not even that long. It's going to sting for less than a minute. Because it's 40 miles an hour, it's 35 miles an hour. It doesn't hit all that bad, but he's scared to death that he's going to get hit by a pitch. Some of you guys are a little like, oh, it is bad. Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. I'm wrong. Maybe he's afraid that he'll just humiliate himself, that he'll look silly, he'll strike out. Maybe he's afraid that this one moment of embarrassment will follow him for the rest of his life. He's just never gonna live it down because it was the 6th inning, the last inning of a Little League baseball game, and it was a tie game, and the bases were loaded, and he came to the plate, and 2 outs, he just whiffed, and it was over, and it's going to be awful. So we don't know exactly what's going through Johnny's head, but we know that he's terrified. He's afraid, and he is paralyzed by these irrational fears and anxieties. So let's just zoom in. Let's think about what's going on in his head for those minutes. So as you're coming to the play, particularly if you're not a good hitter, you're getting a lot of advice, right? You know, dad shouting, maybe mom shouting, maybe you got an older sibling or a younger sibling who's shouting to you giving advice. You got a couple of coaches that are giving you advice. You got that one really loud parent of the other kid who's giving advice. You got 5, 6, 7 people who are telling you what to do. You know, so get your elbow up, Johnny, and shift your weight to your back foot and get ready to bend your knees, Johnny. Lean forward a little bit, Johnny. So he's getting all, be a hitter, Johnny. He's getting all this stuff, and he's just trying to take it all in, and the next thing you know is the first pitch comes across the plate. And it was right down the middle. It was the pitch. It's the best pitch he's going to see. But he was standing still. He was paralyzed. He couldn't do anything. And now he's down 0-1. He's down in the count. Now he's at a disadvantage. So that means instead of 5 people shouting, there's 20 people shouting. Some of you guys are not even baseball fans, but you came to the game and you're piling on. You know, you're joining in, whatever you can say. Be a hitter, Johnny. Swing. You can't get a hit unless you swing. And just giving all these advice. Get the stance right. Get everything right. And so he's taking in all this information. The last thing that he hears before the next pitch comes is, you got to be a hitter. You got to swing if you want to hit the ball. So the next pitch comes, and it's like 6 inches, 9 inches over his head. But he knows he's got to swing if he wants to hit the ball, right? So, and it's awkward. And he almost falls over, and he knows, and everybody knows it was bad. It was bad. It was a terrible moment, possibly the most embarrassing moment so far in his 11-year-old life. And so he's reflecting on that moment again. Am I going to be defined by this forever? What's my dad going to say? Is my coach going to yell at me again? Is he going to single me out again? Is he going to use me as the example of what not to do in this? So he's processing on all that stuff. He's getting ready. He's trying to psych himself up for the next pitch, and the next pitch comes, and it's already hit the glove when he does that. Just this lazy, awkward, completely demoralized swing, which he's hearing about from the coaches. And then, you know, the umpire a little bit overly exuberant. Strike 3, you're out! And, you know, he goes back, and it's over, and that's it. Anxiety doesn't tend to help performance. You get out there, it's not a good thing. It doesn't help you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. It's debilitating. Again, some of you guys have played baseball, you've been in that situation, you know, and some of you guys, you experience it in other areas. I didn't play baseball growing up. So I experienced it at wedding receptions. Okay, you go to the wedding, and, you know, I get to be up front, and some pastors are really nervous when they're like doing the ceremony, and everybody's looking at the bride. They don't care what I say. You know, this is pretty easy. Sometimes it's hot because we're wearing different layers, but you get to the wedding reception, and that for me is this irrational, paralyzing fear and anxiety moment, because there's some point in the reception, if it's a halfway decent reception, where they have dancing. And one of the first things they do, they have like the bride against the groom, the mother, father, whatever, and they're like, all of the married couples come out and dance, we're going to see who's the oldest. And I hate that one, because they're learning how to dance. And I understand that the mechanics of dancing are pretty simple. You go out there and you kind of sway back and forth, you turn a little, you whisper sweet nothings, whatever. But I find that it creates anxiety in my heart. I think that's only compounded by the fact that my wife went to college on a dance scholarship. So there's pressure, there's expectation. It's irrational, but I feel it. And it doesn't make me want to engage in the process. And it's kind of like Little League, where you get other people who know that I like this, and they start picking on me. Can you believe that they pick on me? They're like, you know, Shannon, be a dancer, or, you know, whatever. They don't say it exactly that way. But it's hard. And I just feel it. All of us experience these irrational fears and anxieties in some areas of your life. I don't know where you experience it. But I know that one of the areas where we, as Christians, where we almost universally experience this is in evangelism. We've got this calling on our life that we're invited to be God's ambassadors in the world. That we represent Him to other people. That we've been given this message. We've been given the hope of the gospel. We've been offered the truth and the reality that Jesus Christ died for our sins, was buried, and rose from And we've been given this opportunity to be reconciled to God by grace through faith. Not by doing anything, not by doing better, trying harder, but by grace. That God's accepted us, and then He's invited us to join with Him and to tell others the same. To just share this hope with the world. And for many of us, we look at that opportunity, and in a sane moment when we're reflecting on it, when we're saying, oh, this is cool, we're like, yeah, I want to tell people about Jesus. We like sing songs about it. We read scripture. We hear a sermon that we like. We're like, yeah, I want to tell people about Jesus. But we get out there in the moment, and we experience these irrational, paralyzing fears and anxieties. What if I offend her? What if I get something wrong? What if I don't understand the message well enough? What if this relationship that seemed really good before I had the Jesus conversation kind of goes south after that? What if I lose a friend? Maybe I need to put this off a little bit. Maybe I need to wait. Maybe I need to learn the message better. Maybe I don't know, but I can't do this now. And we back off. We're paralyzed by our fear. You know, and then we go to church and we're reminded again, hey, you're supposed to be Jesus, the ambassador of the world. You're supposed to be a missionary. You're supposed to tell people about Jesus. You invited anybody to church this week. We're like, no. You know, and we're back in that 11-year-old little league thing. You know, we want to think that, yeah, that anxiety is something that 11-year-old little leaguers experience, but we're adults, you know, we're tough, we're strong. We don't experience that, but we do. It's remarkable how much our adult lives mimic our junior high lives. And this is one of the areas where it doesn't. And we tend to be very ineffective missionaries, very ineffective ambassadors, because we are paralyzed by fear and anxiety. How in the world do we overcome that? That's the question that we're looking at today. We're in week 4 in a series in Matthew called Training Days, where we're looking at how Jesus trained his earliest disciples for the mission field, to multiply the mission into the world, to tell other people about Jesus. So we're going to be in Matthew chapter 10, verses 26 to 33. And in this passage, we're going to see paralyzing anxiety. We're going to see misplaced fears that lead to anxiety. But we're also going to see this radiant, amazing love of God. We're going to see His power and His desire to care for us. And my hope is that as we catch even just a little glimpse of His love and His power, His ability to provide for us, His desire to provide for us, that we're going to be able to let go of our anxieties and actually burst out in loud and joyful declaration of the glory of our God. Because that's fun. And among other things, the Christian life is actually supposed to be fun. And I really think if we can let go of the anxiety a little bit, you'd be like a team of little leaguers that goes out there and has some fun. And actually sees God move through us for His glory among our neighbors and co-workers and friends. So that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're going for. Sound like a good goal? Let's do that amen. You ready? You want to hear about how we can overcome our anxiety? I don't know. We don't get enough amens. I might not be setting this up correctly. Just say amen. Amen. Oh, yeah! Okay, let's go. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about our misplaced fears. Matthew chapter 10, verse 26. So do not be afraid of them. First thing we see is Jesus is giving this command. Do not be afraid of them. So who are they? What's the context? What are we not supposed to be afraid of? The context here is violent persecution. Last week, Tyler St. Clair, he came up from Restored Church in Detroit, one of the younger church plants that we support. He's a church planting resident, looking to go out and start another church in Detroit in a couple of years. He's in the preparatory phases for that. But he came up, he preached this previous section where Jesus is basically giving a lot of warnings. He begins by telling his disciples, I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. And Tyler made the point, sheep and wolves, it's not that they're enemies, it's that the predator and prey. Here the sheep, the world is the wolves. This is a dangerous assignment that you are going out into. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. He goes on, be on your guard against men. They will hand you over to local councils and flog you in their synagogues. He goes on to explain, here's what you do when you get arrested. Then he says, brother will betray brother to death. and a father's child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. All men will hate you because of me. But he who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, lead to another. And keep on declaring the message of the gospel. So again, the context is violent persecution. Almost every single one of these guys is eventually going to be tortured and killed for their faith in Jesus. And yet Jesus says, do not be afraid of them. They're facing torture, they're facing death, it's really going to happen. And Jesus has the audacity to look at them and say, don't be afraid of those guys who are going to torture you and kill you. That's a misplaced fear. Don't be afraid of that stuff at all. It's not a big deal. That's what he says to them, facing torture and death. If that's what he says to them, what would he say to us, facing, what is it that we face when we're anxious, when we're fearful about sharing the gospel? We face the threat that we might be rejected by a neighbor. That the guy that we're not even sure that we like, but we're prayerfully trying to love, might not think that we're cool anymore. I mean, that's scary, right? It's one of our greatest fears in sharing the gospel. I think if Jesus says to them in the face of torture and suffering and death, don't be afraid of them, I think he would say to us, in the midst of our fear of rejection, do not be afraid of them. I think that's what he'd say. Jesus says both our fears and their fears are misguided and misplaced. They're out of proportion. They don't make sense. I know in the moment it seems like a big deal because I got this strategic opportunity in this relationship, and if I blow it now, I'm never going to get another chance. He says you're like an 11-year-old little leaguer who's just getting worked up. Who's developing this anxiety that's going to paralyze you, and frankly, it's going to steal all the joy out of your Christian life. It says it's a misplaced fear. It's kind of goofy. Our fears and theirs are misguided and misplaced. So do not be afraid of them. Then he goes on to address our very normal but completely misplaced fears, our irrational, paralyzing anxieties. So what is it that we're afraid of? Verse 26. It says, so do not be afraid of them. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. It says the truth is coming out. Secrets, what's going on in your heart right now, what's going on in their hearts, the truth of the gospel. All of this stuff is going to come out into the light. I think one aspect of our fear is that we're going to be found out. Because every single one of us, we have this facade, we have this mask that we wear, we have this song and dance routine that we go through because we want everybody in the room and everybody out there in the world to think of us more highly than they probably ought to. We want to pretend that we have it together. We want to pretend that we're cool. Some of you guys are out on the dance floor and you got it all down. You're making people think that you're really cool. And maybe you are cool. Some are like me, like I'm just not going to win in this area. So forget it. I'm not going to reveal who I really am on the dance floor. That would be awful. But we all have this game that we go through in whatever area of our life, in our relationships, in our conversations, in the way that we stand in the lobby. Some of you're up late last night practicing in the mirror. How am I going to hold my coffee to make sure that people think that I'm cooler than I am? So there's this anxiety that we have when it comes to actually talking to people about Jesus, being vulnerable, sharing something that's important to us that they might not respect or like. There's this fear that, they might actually find out who I am. And they might not like who I am. But Jesus says, you know what? Who you are is actually going to come. It's going to be revealed there. If you genuinely love Jesus, it's going to come out. And even for some of you guys who genuinely love Jesus, but you're scared to death to share Jesus, even the positive, the fact that you love Jesus, that's going to come out. Okay, some of you are like, yeah, I don't really care for Jesus, but I go through the motions, and that's going to come out. The truth of the gospel is going to come out. All of these things that we're nervous about, the truth getting out and how it affects our lives and how it affects our reputations, it's all coming out. So don't be anxious about it. Man, let's just be open. Let's declare where we stand, who we are. Let's not be afraid of being exposed for the weak, insecure people that we truly are. Because Jesus says the truth is going to come out anyway, including the truth of God's love. So let's just get the is out there now. Verse 27 says, what I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Now, I don't think Jesus is actually whispering in their ears in the dark. Maybe. But I think it's a wordplay that he's doing to just get the point across. Let's get the message out there. Let's be bold. Jesus is already being bold. He's already drawing these huge crowds. You see these passages where he's talking about the crowds were so huge and they were alongside a lake, and he had to get out in a boat and paddle out a little way so he wasn't overrun by the crowd, and then he would shout to everyone. So Jesus is already out there shouting. He says, what I've been doing preaching, man, I'm going to send you guys out there. I want your preaching to make my preaching look like a whisper. I want you to climb up on the roof and have some fun. I know at least one person in the room who would like that idea, of climbing on the roof and shouting. All right, let's try it. Let's get the message out there. Let's be bold. Let's have some fun. I think that's what he's inviting us into. He's saying, okay, the truth of who you are, whether you're somebody who goes through the motions and pretends, or whether you're somebody who's been genuinely adopted into the family of God, a son or daughter of God, the truth is coming out. If you've been adopted into the family of God, if you're a son or daughter of the King, let's shout it. Let's get the word out. Again, not the main point of the passage, but one of the things that I think is implied in here, let's have fun. Let's get loud, let's be bold. I'm not saying we should be rude, I'm not saying we should be condescending, I'm not saying we should be unnecessarily offensive, but let's be bold. Let's be bold in our declaration of our hope in Jesus Christ, and let's have fun. Don't be anxious about evangelism. Don't be anxious, am I going to get it wrong? If you don't think you understand the gospel well enough to share it, I'll buy you lunch today. I'll walk through it with you. I'll buy you lunch today, whatever it takes. We'll talk through it. Over lunch, I can help you. I'm almost certain of it. I can help anyone in the room understand the gospel well enough so you can share it confidently with somebody else. Let's do it over pizza. Let's not let any of our anxieties about what people think or how we understand the message keep us from going out there and having fun being who we are. Back to baseball. One of the clearest lessons that I think I knew before I got there, but it's just been reinforced over and over in baseball. Anxiety keeps you from having fun. That kid who's just standing there absolutely paralyzed, watching one go by and then flailing at the next and then watching another go by and hit the glove before he can even muster a weak swing, he is not having fun. He is anxious, and that anxiety is keeping him from performing well, it's keeping him from being effective, it's keeping him from having fun. So there's these different strategies of coaching, and the main coaching strategy that I see over and over in the league is yell at the kid. Get louder. Because there's like this misunderstanding, there's this thought that, as a coach or as a parent or as a fan, that I'm more frustrated with that strikeout than the kid is. I really doubt that that's true. But we do this dog pile thing, and we just kind of ruin it. So when the kid goes up and everyone's shouting instructions, I try to get louder than everyone else. I'm like, Johnny, have some fun! If he's a competitive kid, I'll trash talk him. There's one kid on the team, he tells me how he's going to knock it over the fence and put it in the trash can that's out in center field. So we talk about that every day. Because he's like that. I think he enjoys that. For the kid that's less confident, I'll say, hey, I'm getting lonely as the first base coach. Come see me. Let's come hang out. To other kids, I just change the topic. Let's not talk about baseball. Let's talk about the cars that they can hit with a foul ball. Are those new shoes that you got? Whatever. Let's just change the subject. Let's not talk about this anxious moment. Get that. How there's that moment before the game or after the game where all the kids, they put their hands in and they do a cheer? Go Orioles or, whatever. Go Cubs, go. We don't do that. I ask the kids before the game, what do you want to say? And we come up with something goofy. It's, my favorite was raspberry sorbet. Double rainbows. I don't know. It didn't seem very manly to me, but if we almost had a rain out, they love the rainbows. So we wanted it. Yesterday, there's pitch counts, and if you want the kid to pitch the next day or a few days, you have to watch how many pitches they throw. So our kid was coming up on a pitch count. We had 2 runners on base, late innings. We'd already given up 3 runs that inning. We had this huge lead. It's evaporating. The team's kind of melting down. He's at his pitch count. We need to bring in another pitcher. Who are we going to bring in? Go out to the mound, call the infielders in, and we did rock, paper, scissors to see who our next pitcher was. And Peter got us out of the inning, and it was fun. Let's relax. As Christians, we ought to be having some fun. The God of the universe has redeemed us. The God of the universe has accepted us. Any of our anxieties about being cool enough ought to be done with. Okay? The only person in all the universe whose opinion means anything has said, "You're good. I love you. Welcome to the family." And he's given us a pretty fun task of going and shouting good news from rooftops. That's cool. Some of you, you're quiet, you're introverted, you don't want to shout from the rooftop. That's fine, but it's still a fun opportunity. So let's not be anxious about it. Let's just get out there and actually have some fun. Let's not get caught up in these misplaced fears of what other people might think of us. Let's actually get some perspective and realize that the things that we're afraid of are not very legitimate fear. Okay? So I think that's what he's doing in the next section. He's saying, you guys have all these misplaced fears. Let me give you some perspective on fear. Verse 28. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body. That's weird. Don't be afraid of those who kill the body. Anybody afraid of somebody who could kill you? Anybody at all?
Yes.
All right, we got a few. We got a few today who are afraid of being shot. Somebody holds a gun to their head like, this is a scary moment. You guys are really in touch with your feelings. That's good. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Do you have fears and anxieties?
Yes.
Okay, we've all got some of that. They're in different areas. Some of them overlap. Most of us are afraid of being killed. We have fear of rejection, fear that people won't like us, fear that somehow we're going to miss out on life. You know, I may never get to see Spain. My bucket list isn't getting crossed off. We have all these goofy fears in life. It says, let's get some perspective on what we really should fear. Because we do have someone to fear. And Jesus actually commands us, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. And by destroy, he doesn't mean annihilate. He means to absolutely wreck and ruin a person in the eternal torments of hell through utter separation from the only one who gives life and joy. And that is God himself. So Jesus commands us, don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of anyone who can do nothing worse to you than kill you. Maybe maim you or torture you and then kill you. In the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of eternity, not all that big a deal. Don't be afraid of the one who can kill the body but can't even touch your soul. Don't be afraid of terrorists. Don't be afraid of drug dealers. Don't be afraid of your neighbor, coworkers, or family friends, or the waitress at the restaurant who might think that you're weird because you love Jesus. Don't be afraid of what other people think of you. Don't be afraid of rejection. There's only one being in the universe who is worthy of your fear, and that's God the Father. And there is only one situation in all of creation that's worthy to be the object of your anxious thoughts. Think about all the things that make you anxious. Well, my favorite donut we left. Some of you guys, you just can't even tune in for the rest of it. You're like, there's only, I got one buddy before the service, and there's only one buddy left, and there's somebody coming late. Will I get into the right college? Will I get the right job? Will I ever be married? Will the Cubs win? Hey! There's a lot of ridiculous things that we're fearful about. There's a lot of ridiculous things we're anxious about. I think one of the implications of this passage is that there's one situation in all of creation that's worthy of your anxiety. And that's being separated from the love of God for all of eternity. Some of you, you've surrendered your life to Jesus. You've placed your faith in Jesus. You've been adopted into the family of God. You've come not only under the love, but under the promised protection of the most powerful, sovereign being in all the universe. Not in all of creation, because he's not a part of creation. He's the author of creation. And he says, I've got you. I'm holding you in my hand. You don't need to be anxious about whether your baseball team's going to win. It doesn't even matter. It's not a situation worthy of your anxiety. One thing to be anxious about, the idea of ever being separated from the love of God. And if you surrender to Jesus, you're past that anxiety. Maybe you still experience it, but you don't experience it legitimately. He said, I have you in my hand, I will not let you go. You want somebody to fear? Fear God. You want to identify a situation that's truly worthy of your anxious thoughts? Think about the concept of being separated from the love of God for all eternity. Think about that for you, for somebody you love, for your neighbor who you're not even sure you like. Yeah, that's worthy of anxiety. That's a legitimately anxious thought. And yet, even these words of fearing God or being anxious about hell, these aren't words of Jesus spoken to threaten the enemies of God. These are the words of Jesus spoken to encourage the children of God. These are not words that Jesus spoke to create anxiety, saying, oh, you might want to be anxious about this. These are words that Jesus spoke to alleviate anxiety among his children, among his followers, among his disciples, among those of you who call on the name of Jesus. He makes that really clear in verse 29. He says, are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Can we all agree that sparrows are essentially worthless? I mean, some of you have bird feeders, they're pretty. I like birds. I like to look at them. I was looking at birds out the window the other day. I don't know if they were sparrows. I have no clue. But can't we all agree that sparrows are essentially worthless? There's a lot of sparrows out there. And maybe they cost more today because we have less people who are good at shooting them. I don't know, they're better with slingshots than we are to get such a low price sparrow. Can't we all agree that sparrows are essentially worthless? Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father, the will of your Daddy. He is sovereign even over the birds. We tend to think that God is sovereign over the really, really big stuff. You know, God's preoccupied with the big stuff. You know, he's making sure that there isn't an earthquake that causes California to fall into the Pacific Ocean. He's got that, but he doesn't really have time for me. I have these anxious areas in my life, and I really need to keep an eye on these areas in my life because God's big, but God's busy. So I got to take responsibility for what's going on with me and make sure that I'm good. You feel that? You believe that? I think that's how most of us live. I think that's part of how we justify anxiety. But it is not what Jesus taught. Jesus says, yeah, God's concerning himself with the big stuff. He's also concerning himself with the little stuff. He's also concerning himself with sparrows that all of us can agree are essentially worthless. He says, not one of them is going to fall to the ground apart from my say-so. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, and yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are numbered. And in my case, that's at least 3 than it was yesterday. But not a single hair of my head will drop to the ground apart from the will of my Father. Okay, so I don't need to be anxious about male pattern baldness. He's got it covered. It's one more thing that I can cross off my list as unworthy of my anxiety. So do not be afraid. And don't be anxious about anything. You're worth more than many sparrows. Sparrow's worth half a penny. You're worth many half pennies.
Many half pennies.
You're worth more than many sparrows. In fact, you are of infinite worth to an infinite God who is infinitely powerful and able to protect you and care for you and love you.
Preach, brother.
So get over your anxiety. Your anxiety and your fears are misplaced. Jesus says, in effect, be afraid of the awesome power of God. And then remember he's your daddy. And he loves you and treasures you and cares for you. He refers to God the Father in this passage not as his Father, but to his disciples he says he's your Father. Some of you guys have a lousy, Dad. And that's confusing. Imagine a good dad. Tucking his daughter in at night, tucking his son in at night, giving them kisses, snuggling them. As a dad, I don't do it every night. For, 10 years or so, I did this every night. I didn't miss a dozen times in the first 10 years of Luke's life of going into his room an hour or two after he was asleep, and then going into Chloe's room once she came along. And I get close enough to hear him breathe. He's anxious, I know, whatever. I'll listen to my own sermon later. But it's also loving. I would go in, I would listen to him breathe, and I'd get close enough to whisper, Daddy loves you. And I'm like, thinking I want this planted in their subconscious. I want them to understand that their daddy loves them, that their daddy cares for them, that their daddy's bigger than them. He's here to protect them. He's watching out for them. And daddy's thinking about them. They don't have to worry about anything. That's the image of a daddy that he's talking about here. It says, be afraid of the awesome power of God, and then remember he's your daddy, and he loves you, and he treasures you, and he cares for you. Then go out and loudly proclaim the gospel from the rooftops out of the overflow of the joy and security and hope that we have in a God like that, who's adopted you as his son or daughter. 2 more verses to look at today. Throughout this passage, I've been basically speaking to all of you as Christians, with the assumption that you genuinely love Jesus. And as somebody who loves Jesus, there's at least a part of you who genuinely wants to tell other people about his love for the world. And yet we tend to not do that because misplaced fears and anxieties get in the way. We get paralyzed, we get locked up, and we become ineffective. So those are kind of the assumptions that I've been making as I'm talking to you. That a lot of us, we go through the Christian life, and we particularly go through that through our opportunities to share the gospel like an overmatched little leaguer that's just, shaky, paralyzed, can't get it done. But as we wrap up this message, Jesus really presses us to examine that assumption. So he speaks to his disciples about God, their Father. And then we come to this point in the passage, it's this sobering moment where he says, essentially, but is he really your father? Is he really your dad? Because if he is your daddy, then I want you to take immense comfort in his love and his security, his provision, his protection. I don't want you to be anxious about anything. But if he's not your daddy, then we should talk about that, right? If you're going through the motions, if you're pretending, or if you're just in a place where you haven't really understood, or you're not sure that you're ready to surrender to Jesus, then let's talk about that. Verse 32. He continues, whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. And whoever disowns me before men, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Now, we could read this as kind of a conditional salvation thing, a works-based salvation deal, where, if you do evangelism really well, if you talk about Jesus a lot to people out in the world, then when you come before God the Father, Jesus will talk about you a lot and say nice things. And if you don't talk about Jesus, if you disown Jesus, if you distance yourself from Jesus in your public interactions, then you're going to stand before God the Father, and Jesus is going to kind of do the same. I don't think that's what it's saying, because Scripture is so clear, cover to cover, that salvation is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. I can't earn it, not even by telling other people about Jesus. So I don't think Jesus is telling you how to become a Christian. I think he's letting us know that how we talk about Jesus or fail to talk about Jesus is indicative of something going on in our heart. And it's not always the same reason that we don't tell people about Jesus. But if we're not talking about Jesus, if we're not doing this thing that he talks about shouting from the rooftops, or however you do that in a more subdued temperament, then there's probably something going on in our heart that's worthy of examination. Verse 32 again. Whoever acknowledges me before men, whoever says to the world, this is my Savior, and you got to know Jesus, I will also acknowledge him before the Father in heaven. Say, I'm his Savior. Whoever disowns me before men, I will disown before my Father in heaven. So I think what he's saying is that if our tendency, if the norm of our life is to distance ourselves from Jesus, you get into a social situation and you realize some of these people like Jesus, some of these people don't like Jesus when I'm over here. Oh yeah, I like Jesus when I'm over here. Jesus, yeah, whatever. If that's the way we live our lives, that it may be indicative of the fact that we don't really love Jesus. That we don't really believe that Jesus is the God of all creation. If I get in a situation and the fact that Bill might think less of me if I talk about Jesus keeps me from talking about Jesus, then I have a very elevated opinion of Bill and an extremely low opinion of Jesus. And that might be indicative of the fact that I don't truly believe in Jesus or love Jesus. I think that's the warning that he's getting at. He's saying, guys, if you can go through your entire life without telling people about Jesus, do you believe in Jesus? Because people who believe in Jesus and people who have saturated themselves with truth about Jesus, they tend to be pretty zealous for Jesus. I want you to feel that. I want you to examine your heart. I want you to ask the question, do I believe in Jesus? Have I surrendered to Jesus? Do I love Jesus? And if not, let's do some business with Jesus. Let's talk about it. Let's work through that. Let's be honest about what's going on in your heart, what the barriers are that would keep you from believing in Jesus and surrendering to Jesus. But as somebody who's very confident that I love Jesus, and that I believe in Jesus, and that I want with all of my heart to follow Jesus, I can tell you that there are many times when I have disowned Jesus, when I've not taken the opportunity he's presented me to tell other people about him. And I don't think that that's indicative of the fact that I don't love him. Or that I'm not his. And I don't think that I'm going to get to heaven and Jesus is going to say, man, remember that one moment when I just gave you a slow pitch softball down the middle to talk to your neighbor Mike about me and you didn't? Yeah, well, you're right. You disowned me, I disowned you. I don't think that's how it is. I think that for many of us, we genuinely love Jesus. We genuinely believe in Jesus. And all things equal, we love to tell people about Jesus. We're just paralyzed by misplaced fears and anxieties. I think that's the same thing that happened to Peter. You get to those closing days of Jesus' life before he's crucified, before the resurrection, all that stuff, and he turns to Peter, his most faithful follower, the leader of his band of merry men, and he goes to Peter and he says, before morning, you're gonna deny me 3 times. And Peter's like, no, I would never do that. I would die before I do that. He makes good on it. He tries to kill a Roman servant or whatever that night in the midst of a bunch of Roman soldiers. He nearly gets himself killed. Jesus bails him out of that, and then he runs away, and he proceeds over the next few hours to deny Jesus 3 times. I don't think that's indicative of the fact that Peter did not love Jesus or believe in Jesus or want to follow Jesus or want to declare the truth of who Jesus is. I think he got paralyzed by misplaced fears. And when that whole situation resolves, when Jesus is raised from the dead, we see him single Peter out, not to pile on and say, that was awful, that was your pitch to hit, you blew it, Peter. But he just comforts him. He says, I love you. He says, do you love me? Peter's like, yeah, I love you. Of course I love you. And he asks me again, do you love me? I'm kind of insulted by the question. Of course I love you. And he asks him again, do you love me? You know everything. You know I love you. And I think he does that and say, yeah, I know. I want you to know that you love me. I want you to be comforted by the fact that you know and I know that you love me. And the next time you get an opportunity to go tell people about me, if you can keep in mind the fact that you love me and I know that you love me and you know that I know and we love each other, I think you'll take better advantage of that next opportunity you get. So let's go out there and have some fun. All right? If there's one thing that I want for the summer, I want us to drink deeply of the truth of God's Word. I want us to lean into Him. I want us to get to know Him. I want us to pray to Him. Then I want us to go out there and have fun telling people about Jesus. I want you to take opportunities this week to pray and say, God, give me the opportunity to tell somebody about you. Give me the opportunity. Man, I'm scared to death. I can't imagine having a gospel conversation with somebody. Give me the opportunity to invite somebody to Mosaic, invite somebody to a small group. Give me something. Help me to get rid of my misplaced fears and anxieties so that I can have the courage, so that I can have the joy to just go out there and take a risk and have some fun. Amen?